Sasuke pulls out a kunai. Where he had a kunai, I don't know. It's crazy to think that he got into the prison, right? Nobody's questioning why there's just an extra inmate. Then it's crazy to think that he was able to smuggle weapons into the prison. Like, did he not go through a vetting process at all? Alright, what's going on, everybody? Anime Rainbow back with another episode. Today we'll be discussing Sasuke Story Chapter 2. It is a brand new series in the Naruto lineup. Bi-weekly series put out there by Shonen Jump. If you rock with the content, drop a subscribe button. I will be reviewing this as it comes out. But what is going on? Well, if you remember where we left off from the last chapter, Sasuke has traveled to the land of Rendaku in order to try to find a cure for Naruto. He's afflicted by an ailment, the same ailment that afflicted the Sage of Six Paths from back in the day. And when Sasuke gets there, he has to inevitably get himself locked up in this observatory slash prison. It's not clear what he did to get locked up. He just pops up one day inside of the prison. None of the guards or even the warden question why they have an additional inmate. And it just seems as though this series is moving really quickly. I wonder how many total chapters it's going to be. Nonetheless, this chapter kicks off. At the very end of the last chapter, the guy that Sasuke was talking to planned his escape, and we saw the defense measures that this prison has in place in order to prevent anybody who is a prisoner from escaping. Meno, a dinosaur, a raptor, very reminiscent of Jurassic Park, is like the one and only line of defense. It actually stated in this chapter that all the doors and essentially windows are unlocked because you can't escape Meno. In this land, people who use chakra, ninjas, shinobis, that is extremely rare actually, and if you have that ability, you can almost essentially become a god of this small isolated land because they have no idea what's going on in the outside world. It's actually kind of dark. I didn't expect the dude to be dead. I'm imagining him dead because Meno was like eating as Sasuke and his cellmate Gigi are talking and shooting the breeze, and we're getting the exposition dump about how all the doors and windows are left unlocked because Meno essentially has the entire prison on lock, because if anyone was to try to escape, then essentially Meno is there to apprehend them. Now, if you saw my last chapter video, I had talked about how there just really can't be one. It's too big of a location for just one raptor to be able to police the entire area, and that's kind of what you get further down the road in this chapter. I'll elaborate a little bit more as we get to that part, but essentially Meno has everything unlocked. So they're pickaxing, Gigi is explaining all of this to Sasuke, and this is where he busts a blister on his hand and talks about how he has to go to the infirmary in order to meet the new nurse there, who he says is single. Now Sasuke, I picked up on this, Sasuke was like, why would you think that she's single? And Gigi explains that in this land it's customary for anybody who's in a relationship with one another to wear rings on their ring finger, and because the nurse does not have a ring on her finger, therefore she is single. They don't have that in Konoha, so for Sasuke, he's like, look, you can try if you want, I bust heads either way. Regardless, I mean, you know, Sakura is pretty whipped, so he has no problem with her turning people down in that department. I still find it interesting nonetheless, the fact that Sakura, at least in some stretch of the imagination, is single in this series, regardless of the fact that Sasuke already has Sarada, they already have a kid. You can see a little bit of jealousy coming out of Sasuke. It's interesting to see that side of him. At the same time as this conversation is going down, they're still technically supposed to be working, but they're not, and this is when the guards are doing their rounds, and Gigi actually makes the comment that, look, hey, you actually have an edge up in this facility because the guards are scared of you. If he was able to do what Sasuke did on day one and basically beat the entire cafeteria down, he would have saved himself a lot of pain in the past. Flash forward, they're back in their cells after a long day of work. It's nighttime, they're playing dice. I find it very interesting that in this manga they're allowed to gamble, essentially, right? They're betting, they're gambling, dice, they're having a good time. It is what it is. You have one of Sasuke's cellmates try to get him involved, tell him to come over and play, shoot some dice, and Sasuke was, you know, apprehensive at first. He didn't want to engage with anybody in the cell, he just wanted to be there, do his mission, and essentially get out. So he comes up with this plan. Inevitably, he's like, alright, I'll play a game. And he didn't want to bet anything, even though he did offer up this gemstone that he created out of a pebble. I mean, what? In the Naruto franchise, you're telling me y'all were able to fucking unlock the keys of the Philosopher's Stone and turn these small, invaluable pieces of dirt and rock into precious gemstones that the cellmates do point out that they have no use for that in here. If it's not smokes or something that you can eat or pawning off a chore, they don't really need it. A gemstone is pretty, but again, they're not getting out anytime soon, so there's no value to it. So they play this game, Sasuke wins the game, he says, look, I don't need anything from you, I don't want anything from you, all I need, well, he does say he wants something, he wants a favor. and his favor is for them to cover for him as he goes and does what it is that he has to do. The cell door, I'm imagining, is not unlocked, but they don't question how he was just able to unlock it with no problem whatsoever. They also talk about protocol within the prison, that if they don't have this cloth, then they're not allowed to be walking around after hours, and they really have no special talent if a guard comes around to be like, hey, where is prison inmate Sasuke? And they're like, well, I thought you knew, like they can't have a conversation like that, and they still don't know that he is a shinobi. The only person who knew that he could use chakra was the person who ended up getting eaten by Meno. The old man painting his toenails does seem to have some sort of inclination of what Sasuke is doing, right? He doesn't look shocked or surprised. He has a little ... by his name, which shows, at least to me, that he has some knowledge of what it is that's going on, right? That level of perception that we saw in chapter 1 from that random inmate that got eaten. He was able to see that Sasuke was able to use chakra, so maybe there is some detection available in that village. Who knows? We didn't really get to see too much of the old man after that because Sasuke is out and he's roaming the hallways at this point. Again, I'd like to reiterate the fact that this series seems to be moving very fast. If the pacing of this series is really gonna be this fast, then for all intents and purposes, the same way he snuck into the prison, he could have made a shadow clone, had that shadow clone hide, and then at some point on the way back from working out in the fields, he could have swapped places with the shadow clones, did his business, got in, got out, and swapped places back before the morning shift routine goes down. We've seen so many prison arcs of the Naruto franchise. You could have done it that way, but I can see why they wouldn't want to do it that way, considering we have already seen it. We saw it with Naruto when he went to prison in the movie. We saw it with Boruto when they had their arc in the anime, and they're doing it again here now. But he's in the hallway. Of course, Meno comes out and he's fighting Meno. Sasuke pulls out a kunai. Where he had a kunai, I don't know. It's crazy to think that he got into the prison, right? Nobody's questioning why there's just an extra inmate. Then it's crazy to think that he was able to smuggle weapons into the prison. Like, did he not go through a vetting process at all to get into this prison? He pulls out a kunai. He's slicing off limbs from Meno. He doesn't really want to cause a scene because he wants to keep that element of surprise, disregarding the fact that there's probably cameras in the prison, but we don't see anything like that. But he's able to defeat Meno, doesn't kill it, runs away, goes back to the cell. Next morning, they're out there, they're doing their work out in the field, and Sasuke sees that the Meno that's out there watching everybody isn't the same one that was fighting him just the night earlier. It still has its arms, it doesn't have this gash, it's upright, there's no issue whatsoever. Oh, I also forgot to mention this. He tried to put Meno in a genjutsu, okay, because he wanted to know why this raptor was able to stay around for as long as it was doing. The speculation is that Meno is a summoning type, but Sasuke questions what type of summoning it is, because in order to keep a summoning around 24/7 essentially, that requires an incredible amount of chakra or some form of pool of chakra, right? This might have something to do with the title of the series, Stardust, I don't know. But there is no answer for why Meno is able to stay around. There's also no reason why he is able to resist the genjutsu. Even summonings are subjective to genjutsu. We've seen it time and time again. If the Nine Tails can be controlled by genjutsu, any random summoning can also be controlled by genjutsu, but it wasn't. That's neither here nor there. So now, flashback to them being outside. He sees Meno, and now you got Zanzul who pops up behind Sasuke and was like, oh, so you were the one who was creeping around the hallways and ran into Meno. Sasuke, alright, he was like, alright, enough's enough. This is what I was talking about earlier about how the pacing of the series is going really quickly. I mean, you wouldn't have expected Sasuke to have been found out this early on in his mission that he has to do. He needs that element of surprise. He's still undercover, right? This isn't like what happened with Naruto, where something happened in the land of clouds, and in the land of clouds, and Naruto was blamed for that, and that's what put him in prison. Naruto had papers. Naruto was treated as a legit inmate. He had that seal placed on him, and he didn't even know anything about it. That was not what happened with Sasuke. So now that Zanzul essentially knows that Sasuke is not a legit inmate, you would assume that he would take him, put him away, do something to Sasuke to prevent him from doing whatever it is that he's doing. You would imagine that Zanzul is doing something that he doesn't want to be uncovered, but no, he lets Sasuke go. He says, okay, well, I'm going to watch you closer now, but I'm still going to let you do what it is that you have to do, even though you're not a legit inmate who is supposed to be in this prison. You're not even from this land, but he's just going to be allowed to do whatever it is that he does for the sake of the plot to go by. I'm here for it. I have no problem with it. It's just going to be interesting to see how he's going to move, right? It made it a little bit more interesting in the Naruto movie because Naruto had that fire seal placed on him. Even though he was incredibly powerful, he had the Nine Tails chakra, He had his own chakra as an Uzumaki. He had Sage Mode at that point. That seal prevented him from doing anything outlandish without severe repercussions for activating his chakra reserves. Sasuke is essentially the Sasuke that we know from the 4th grade Shinobi War. Full powered, no chakra restrictions, none of that. He has his Rinnegan, Rinne Sharingan, and his Sharingan, Mongekyo, and Eternal. There is only one person, and I'm not being hyperbolic, there is only one person on this planet who can legitimately fuck with him prior to the Otsutsuki showing up. However, I am hyped to see our boy back in action. But I think I rambled on long enough. If you made it to the end, thank you. If you are new, go plus ultra and smash that subscribe button. Let me know you rock with the content that I put out on the channel. Like the video if you like the video, dislike the video if you dislike the video. Comment on the video your thoughts about what you think is going on, how you like this series so far, what do you think is going on, is Sakura there, and really what is her role in all of this going to be? Other than backup for Sasuke, I would imagine there is something that she has to do that is also privy to everything that is going on. What am I saying? Of course, she's the doctor. She needs the medicine. She also needs to know this information, so it's not just enough for Sasuke to bring it back to her. Time is incredibly sensitive in regards to Naruto's life. Is he Hokage at this point? Yeah, he is. So he's Hokage at this point, so it's going to be incredibly sensitive for that information to get back as soon as possible, and hopefully they, log it and archive it as well as humanly possible, just in case someone else comes up in the future and is also the reincarnation of Ashura and Indra. But yeah, I will keep the content coming frequently as infrequent as humanly possible, and I'm out.